So, a very warm welcome to another special episode of ETCIO's Tech Frontline Walk the Talk, powered by IBM. We're coming to you right here from Goa from the ETCIO Annual Conclave 2025. And joining me this morning, we have two very esteemed guests. Viswanath Ramaswamy, VP Technology, Technology Sales India and South Asia, IBM. And Surajit, CTO, Banking and Financial Services, Kotak Mahindra Bank. Today we're here to debrief and really deep dive into the transformative power of Agentic AI. So without further ado, let's go meet our guests. Hey gentlemen, a very good morning. Rishi, Surajit, hi. Thank you so much for joining us here in Goa and the beautiful beaches. Shall we walk and talk?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, gentlemen, to kickstart, if you can help with a little bit of context setting here, right? Because we've seen AI evolving so much and now we're really seeing the intelligence aspect thriving on an enterprise scale. What would you say is the big difference now? And how are you seeing enterprises embrace Agentic AI as a natural progression of the technology? Vishy, would you like to kickstart?
Yeah. So I think while always there's an IT jargon buzzwords which keep coming probably every decade or so, right? Agentic AI is the latest buzzword.
True.
But what's different is fundamentally it's changing the paradigm of how organizations work.
Yes.
Right? In terms of different elements or facets, right? One is productivity, cost economics, and also an employee/consumer experience,
Yes.
right? So it's changing the entire paradigm of it. While it did change in the past era, but this is taking to a very different level, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
and that's what Agentic AI is really doing all about, right? And we have done it within IBM as well as a client zero, which we proudly speak about, be it in the terms of HR domains, or be it in terms of supply chain and productivity or procurement, or be it in the terms of sales, finance, business partners, and so on. It's kind of changed the way we organize ourselves and respond to the needs of clients,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And that's been with a diverse and scaled organization like ours. We have put it to use out there and we've saved a huge amount of dollars thanks to this particular next era of Agentic AI. So it's, it's kind of taken to a different paradigm altogether.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Surajit, let's get you in on this. And is there any insight you can share with us about how you're observing the banking sector as a whole evolve with the onset of Agentic AI?
See, I think we've been seeing AI as Vishy was talking about. I think for the last 10 years, we've been talking about AI.
Of course.
But I think the game has changed in the last 2 years. There's huge traction among the board, huge traction among the management this time to actually show real results. A lot of pilots and POCs have happened. But I think we're now gradually starting to see some results going up. To be honest, ChatGPT, well, there's a lot of regulatory concerns about that. It's actually changed the way, the perception about AI was, it's actually showing real result. So banks, for example, have started to make real investments now. I mean, an investment now is not about pilots. It's more about, how do we impact top line?
Yes.
How do we actually manage costs?
Yes.
Those are real use cases people are discussing about. I think fundamentally now, it's not about, pilots on the sides.
Yes.
We're really talking about how we change the way or reimagine the way that the banks used to operate in the past. And that's fundamentally the change that I'm seeing this time. I mean, I've seen, as I said, technology's changed. I'm visionary. I've been there for long, right?
Yes.
25 years. And I've seen technology change so many times. I don't think there was ever a hype as big as this I've seen. Very true.
Wow.
Very
That's a big statement to put out there. But also in the banking sector, how about the facets of risk mitigation, crisis management, actually, that's in such a highly regulated industry? Do you see AI, specifically Agentic, making a big impact in this aspect too?
So there's no doubt there is going to be impact. I mean, the question here is how do we make it happen? I think we've got to a stage where the fake is matured enough. It's about how do we bring that in within the enterprise and make it operate. I mean, there are questions, right? Explainability of AI is a question. How do we manage? I mean, there are so much of news about rogue agents. Right? What happens if an agent goes rogue? I mean, those questions are getting asked.
Absolutely. Yes.
Interestingly, the questions are being asked with an intent to solve. It's not a question being asked with skepticism.
Yes.
I mean, there is, of course, a school of thought where people are skeptic about all of these things happening. But I do see these things becoming mainstream in the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Just to take the cue from there, right? The point where in a highly regulated industry like banking and insurance and all of that sectors, right? Governance becomes a very, very important element of the fabric, right? And I truly believe, considering that Agentic AI and AI is more and more getting open, for enterprise.
Yes.
Right. And there is an adoption of open models, which banks, retail, manufacturing, they adopt a lot of open technologies.
Absolutely.
But the fundamental fear, whether you're regulated or not regulated, is a governance layer, right? And I'm sure with Surajit and the banking sector, I'm sure the regulators are breathing down their necks, right? In terms of what is the governance mechanism you're putting through, right? Both in terms of data governance as well as the AI governance, right? So are you able to explain what you're doing of AI, right? And that becomes very, very critical. So I would say, irrespective of what technologies you adopt, governance becomes the foundation of everything you adopt on open on AI.
Absolutely. And surely, again, from your vantage point, working with such a large cross section of industries, of organizations, is this a place where you're really working diligently with organizations to help deal with these hurdles and roadblocks?
Absolutely. In fact, in the last 24 hours in the ETCI event, I had a great conversations with a lot of them, Surajit and his peers as well, where they're looking at, yes, I've implemented Gen AI,
Yeah.
I've implemented AI. There are some spots where I'm seeing some results, but then how do I scale this further?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's okay. We have made a progress, but how do I make it perfect?
Yes.
Right? And bring the scale what I want, right? And that's why we are leveraging our own insights where we have, as they say, charity begins at home. We have done it in our organization, and we are kind of made now Agentic AI more consumable.
Right. Yes.
So irrespective of whether you're HR, bank, retail, HR is common, right?
Yeah.
Only what differs is the scale of employees, right? So what's worked for us can work for anyone. The scale only differs, right? Sales is the same, right? Procurement is the same, right? Some of these common functional domains, we are making Agentic AI more consumable,
Right.
quote unquote, like the ready to eat kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
So more consumable for clients to kind of adopt quickly rather than going through the whole length and breadth of the project, right? So that's how we are making more consumable.
Sure. Very valuable. Yeah, Surajit, to bring you in on this, is there a certain new and evolving set of hurdles that you think the BFSI sector is facing when it comes to the workforce management? Surely training plays a big role here.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little bit like you also said, there's a bit of an HR function happening here too, right? Because you do want to assure the workforce ultimately that they are not being replaced by the technology, especially with agentic coming in now. So how are you seeing this pan out in the BFSI?
See, I think there are two aspects to that. One is, how do you make your employees have that, that AI first mindset? That's a very important aspect. We've talked about digital first mindset for long. I think this is a new era where we're talking about AI first mindset. In the past, when you plan a piece of work, you will always plan with a set of people, right? Now, how do you have that thing in your mind that I can actually do that work with lesser number of people, augmented by agents working on the side? So that's, of course, the planning side of it. Then also, there's a training side of it. When, for example, individuals working with another individual has been a reality for, all our lives.
Of course.
An individual working with a bot as an employee is a very new world, right? How do we align people to do that? I think that's the next part of it. I think the third very interesting part, which is where I think all of us will have to think through, what happens to the workforce?
Yes.
Right. So I think that's a discussion that's evolving around the world. I mean, we've all seen newer ways of working happens. People move on to do new things. So all of these things will happen. I think we are at this cusp of a lot of new things happening. Investments are happening around that. Platforms are being made. I think the both parties have to be ready. Right. The platforms have to be ready with the providers. The adopters have to be ready to adopt. I think that's when the music happens.
Yeah.
I think we are at this point. I think both parties are pretty ready. It's just a meeting of minds, a convergence of minds happening before it kind of takes a crucial. I would say it's actually going to fly if you have used those. True.
Yeah.
So very true.
But is there any sort of resistance that you are sensing, again, specifically in the banking sector? Because again, any change that comes through is initially at least met with some sense of hesitation. So just out of,
hesitation has been there. I think we've crossed the hump. There's huge push from the board. I think that's the first time we are saying the boards are actually pushing for this.
Fantastic, yes.
There's huge acceptance in the management that it can lead to a massive improvement in top line and bottom line. I mean, beyond this, it's basically execution. I think we are at the point where it needs to be executed. There is going to be resistance from the ground. I mean, we've all been managing that.
Inevitable.
But I believe we are going to get over with that.
All right, that's great. So let's now take a shift and look at the management and the leadership perspective, right? Because we're understanding what the workforce needs, some of the hesitations. Again, in both of your experience, do you see agentic AI as this tool, as a new opening for the decision-making process to be easier? How is the management taking it overall? And ultimately, what is the role of the CIO here to really bring it all together in the workforce? Love to hear from you, Rishi, to start, because again, you work with so many organizations.
Yeah, absolutely, right? It gives a very different perspective when you do the decision making. So end of the day, it's all about the speed,
Yes.
irrespective of the industry you're in. You're slower, somebody else eats your lunch, right? It's about the speed of decision making. Of course, it does play a very vital role and improves the speed or time to response, as you would call it. Be it internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, it doesn't really matter. Yes, it is going to make a huge impact. And of course, the role of the CIO is now, I would say, is more, the tentacles are spread far and wide, right? Because this is not just a conversation about IT, it's about IT plus the domain internally to the organization, right? Be it for example, Surajit, he might need to discuss with the retail banking head, with a corporate banking head, with the treasury head, with the risk officer, compliance, and so on and so forth. And so the tentacles of IT is now far and wide, and it takes two to tango, right? So it's just not that you're having a solo dance out here, but agentic AI for the role of a CEO is kind of over-encompassing now. He or she must know the pains of the other LOB out there for them to relate and actually sell that idea to his counterpart or his peer in retail banking, right? How it would help him or her grow the business, right? So it's like, I would say more like two to tango is what the role of CIO now becomes. And it's great, right? Because it gives a very different radical shift of going outside your comfort zone, right? And getting really, the CIO really driving the business, right? Directly. It's not indirectly anymore, directly. Right? So I would say more two to tango is what I would kind of put it as a phrase.
Possibly, Rishi will add a lot more to that. I'm saying this is not just about, the CIOs getting out of the comfort zone. It's actually companies getting out of their comfort
Absolutely.
zone. Very, if you're reimagining businesses from a very different, perspective. Just think about it. We have done full transformation. Yes, word has been used like anything for the last, I know, how many years? 10, 15 years? Fundamentally, it was augmentation or it was optimization of your existing process too. Humans worked on emails, humans worked on paper forms, converted to digital forms. Fundamentally, the work didn't change. New AI, that's going to change. Right, which means it's not just about working with your business counterparts. It's also making sure you work with them to explain how the world will change. For example, think about banking operations. Right. Every time a bank had grown, you see the big names in the country, the bank has grown, the number of people have grown.
True.
Right. And the way people want to understand their part of the world is, okay, my organization is my empire. I mean, let me use that word. Sounds very bad. How do you redesign that organization without the people that we have? Now, mindset is we lead teams. And teams are usually humans in flesh and blood. Though if you were teams, it's a bunch of bots. Is that a thing which is going to happen? Okay, that is where we are leading to. So I think it is far more than what we have done. The CIOs have to do a lot of work. My belief is this is going to be successful only when the businesses understands the importance of this one. The CIOs will be enablers of doing that. It's two to a tango. Not even two, it's going to be many to a tango. Yes, because you're talking about all the businesses coming together. People who sell to the customers, people who service the customers, people who build technology, operations, finance, HR. I think everything is fundamentally changing. How much can we take is also a big question. Because, can we fight so many battles together? Maybe the answer is no. So you pick and choose which battles to win, to pick. It's going to be an interesting journey. I actually, after a long time, it's a completely new way of thinking. I've been doing digital. I've started as a developer many years back. All the way from there to be able to build systems, to be able to transform the way processes run has been a journey. But this one from here on the next 10 years, I think it's going to be the most interesting journey. Absolutely. Me too. Very different way of thinking. Absolutely.
Really exciting times, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Before we wrap, as we slowly come to a close, of course, as you so rightly mentioned, now the CIO has their tentacles spread across all aspects of the business. Customer acquisition, retention plays such a big role here, right? What is your experience, both of you, in how you're seeing agentic AI specifically make an impact here? Are we looking at lower cost of acquisition? Are we looking at more enhanced retention? Are we looking at hyper-personalized experiences? Just a little bit of thought process here.
So I'll put it in three vectors. Agentic AI could really play a role, right? The three vectors would be experience,
Yes.
right? Experience, whether to a consumer of an organization, a clients of their organizations, or an internal employee experience or an ecosystem experience. So I would term it as, how do you enrich the experience?
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
That's, as we would colloquially call it, ease of doing business, but how enrich that experience is. That's one vector. The second vector is obviously productivity. Productivity gains. It's not about workforce retention or something, but how do you redeploy the existing workforce to higher productivity jobs,
Yeah.
right? And get some of the repetitive tasks and so on and so forth done by agentic AI. So productivity is a big thing. Thanks to both of these, what would really come as a third vector is either you would have cost economics,
Yes.
efficiencies, or you would build new revenue streams for the organization.
True. Very
Right?
true. Yes.
It could really bring new revenue growth vectors, which would drive revenue growth. So it could be a bank, it could be retail, it could be manufacturing, it could be any industry. So I would say these three vectors is where agentic AI would really get into.
Okay. Excellent. Surajit, your thought?
I think, see, there are multiple metrics which will get attracted, very much taking the cue from him. So there would be, what I call matrix around experience. Now,
Yeah.
experience could be faster delivery of products, better products, right? The way the customers engage with the company,
Yeah.
all of this is going to get impacted. There are matrix around efficiency, which could be around cost efficiency, around various other efficiency matrix which comes in. I think that's going to get impacted. There are matrix around managing risk, and especially in the context of banking and financial services, risk is a very, very important factor, right? So I see agentic AI coming everywhere. If you think about AI in the last few years, I mean, we have been doing AI, right? Bits and pieces, everybody has done something. So mostly it's been predict something, recommend something. So it's a predict and recommend world.
Yes.
Moving on to almost, act, intelligently and act in an automated fashion. That's the world which is coming to. So for example, I mean, Vishy has been, I know we've spoken many times in the past also. You build systems where, think about insurance underwriting. There's always a human involved at some point, right? Do I need that human going forward? I mean, potentially those are kind of things which are coming now. So I think it's a layer on top of the digitization which has happened in the last 10 years. We're taking it to the next level where the humans who work on the digital platform will possibly get replaced. And all this matrix around experience, around efficiency, around risk management, I think all of this will get impacted in a positive way in the next few years. That's what, where I live it.
So on a closing note, then the human touch, the human involvement will continue to be critical. Yes or no?
Very much. It does. It does still. Yes. But then the involvement would be more for higher productive, high value addition, higher value adds. But the repetitive ones would be done by the agent.
See, humans have never gone away.
Never gone.
We've been talking about technology taking over human jobs from the time industrial revolution.
That is
right?
absolutely
It has never happened. Humans find new jobs, right? People find new jobs for people.
right away.
But I think the extent of human involvement in my existing businesses,
Yes.
the way we work currently, might see a downward trend.
Okay.
Right? We're seeing that happening, but potentially not leading to overall job loss for humans. I don't see that happening.
Okay.
I mean, we will do better business, other things.
True.
That's true, right? Okay.
Yes. All right, gentlemen. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Such a
much.
pleasure to have you. Thank you for being part of our tech front. Truly a pleasure to get all the insights from you. So much key takeaways for our viewers today. Thank you for having this conversation.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Surajit.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's all we have for you on this extremely insightful episode. But do stay tuned to ETCIO for many more in-depth conversations as we continue to debrief and decode the future of AI in the workforce and much more. Until next time, many thanks for watching.